Organizations are continuing to adopt video for corporate communications. Executives recognize the increasing role video communications play in the way they do business. Use cases for enterprise video are multiplying faster than ever before. So why do businesses still wrestle with developing a strategy for video? And how does one make smart choices when selecting an enterprise video platform? In this program, two of the leading experts in the industry, Forrester analyst Phil Karcher and Chris Zalumis, Vice President of Product Management for Qumu, share their insights and expertise in the area of enterprise video communications. What is the next generation video communications platform? And how do you determine the right solution to get the most value from your video communications? Welcome to today's webcast entitled Video with Value, a Forrester Research Perspective, Making Smart Choices when Selecting an Enterprise Video Platform. I'm Stacy Naraki, and joining me today is Phil Karcher, analyst with Forrester Research, focused on enterprise collaboration and video communication technologies. Welcome, Phil.
Thanks, Stacy. Great to be here.
Great to have you. And also joining us today is Chris Zalumis, Vice President of Product Management with Qumu. Hi, Chris.
Hi. Good to be here as well.
Great. So to get us started, Phil's going to be first taking us through some research from his recently published report, The Forrester Wave on Video Platforms for the Enterprise. Following that, Chris will take us through some detail about the Qumu solutions, and then we'll close the webcast with a demonstration. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Phil, to get things started.
Thanks, Stacy. I'd like to talk today about the results of our evaluation on enterprise video platforms. This was actually our first evaluation of this important and growing category. I'll share with you the evaluation results as well as some best practices when it comes to selecting a vendor for a solution. First, why did we decide to evaluate this category? When we look at the data, we see that organizations continue to adopt IP video for internal communications. This data, taken from a survey that Forrester fields annually to IT decision makers, shows a clear trend that over the past 3 years, more organizations have been investing in enterprise IP and digital video for internal use, such as for corporate communications or for training. We find that business executives and corporate communications professionals are increasingly interested in using live streaming and on-demand video to better effectively communicate with their employees. When we look at the data by company size, we can see that larger organizations have a higher adoption of the technology because they typically have a more distributed workforce and therefore a greater need to use video communications to effectively communicate with their employees. However, generally, all organizations can benefit from using video to enhance training and communications to their workforce. However, the data doesn't tell the full story. We can see that organizations are not only adopting the use of this technology, they're using it for more purposes than before. Organizations typically look to get started with video publishing for quarterly events like CEO or executive all-hands or company meetings. More organizations look to get more involved with training and may even give their sales or HR departments access to the platform to publish video more frequently. And more organizations these days are interested even in granting access to a greater breadth of employees to share best practices themselves, sort of in a YouTube for the enterprise use case. As more organizations leverage video content from a variety of sources, they have a greater need for a platform to centralize this capability and manage content in a single repository.
Phil, I have a question. As it relates to the trends around the training use case and the increase in that social collaboration, what are you seeing customers doing in regards to leveraging the social collaboration and the mobile devices for training use cases?
Great question. Actually, training, and particularly how-to videos, are one of the most compelling benefits of user-generated content in the enterprise. When you give employees access to, not just webcams to upload video themselves, but screen sharing to show other employees how to do something or how to sell something, that's when user-generated content becomes particularly interesting.
Great.
When we looked at the video platforms market, we found vendors had a variety of different capabilities that they termed a video platform. Fundamentally, however, video platforms are a category of software and hardware to capture video, whether live or in the form of files, to manage that content in a repository and to organize it, and to deliver that content, live or on demand. Our evaluation found that leaders in this category have a greater capability to capture video from a variety of inputs, such as studio cameras for highly produced events, but also video conferencing endpoints, webcams if you want to enable employees to upload content of themselves, and perhaps even mobile devices. Leaders in this category also can deliver video content to a greater variety of endpoints, not just PCs, but to mobile devices like tablets and smartphones, and to digital signage. The Forrester wave is our methodology for evaluating the vendors or products in a particular space. This Forrester wave evaluation had 3 criteria for vendor inclusion. Firstly, vendors had to focus on internal enterprise communications. Secondly, the vendors had to show that they can support the integration and security requirements of enterprises, such as authentication with directories for permissions to access and view content. And thirdly, vendors had to show that they have a track record of working with large enterprises. So all the vendors in this wave evaluation are vendors that we hear about from our client references frequently in competitive scenarios. We evaluated these vendors along 23 criteria through vendor surveys, executive strategy briefings and product demos, as well as talking to these companies' customer references. We scored those 23 criteria along 2 axes, current offering and strategy, which you can see on the chart to the right, and we use those scores to plot the vendors and to segment them as leaders, strong performers, contenders, or risky bets. These are the criteria we use to evaluate the vendors in the wave. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I do want to highlight several which I think are particularly important when it comes to a platform selection decision. Internal YouTube and portal features ask about the ability to integrate with SharePoint if you want to point employees to video on an existing intranet rather than deploy a new portal. It also asks about the ability to support social features like rating, commenting, tagging, and sharing video, much like you'd expect in an enterprise YouTube scenario. Webcasting features were a major differentiator for several vendors. Webcasting being the ability to portray slides along with video content was something that some but not all vendors could do. Some vendors had tools to automate and simplify the process of synchronizing slides with video, whereas others require you to upload slides beforehand or after the fact and synchronize them manually. Direct recording options talks to the ability to ingest content or capture content from a variety of sources, whether those are video conferencing endpoints or infrastructure, webcams, studio cameras, mobile devices. The greater variety of devices or sources you can input content from, the more flexibility you have in having a video platform that can serve a variety of needs. Search and metadata support is also very important. If content is worth saving, it's worth finding. So therefore, you want employees to be able to find content that contains the information that they're looking for in their jobs. File format, video codec, and protocol support are interesting, particularly today, with the interest in supporting delivery to mobile devices. So leading vendors are able to support live as well as on-demand delivery to iOS as well as Android devices besides PCs and browsers. Deployment models are another important point of evaluation. Different customers have different preferences for deployment in the cloud or on premises, depending on their security and network considerations, as well as whether their audience is going to be accessing the content behind the firewall or over the internet if they're remotely distributed. Here you can see the results of the evaluation. Qumu scored highly on strategy because they had a strong enterprise track record, impressive customer references, and a history of working with large enterprises. Qumu scored highest on current offering for having the most complete application toolset, as well as having great support for technology integrations and for supporting network delivery requirements. Generally, leaders in the wave took extensible approaches, not just for having APIs to customize and extend the functionality of the products, but vendors in the wave had complete portal and content management application feature sets. They had integrations with enterprise software, such as portals like SharePoint, social applications like IBM Connections, and with hardware, like enterprise CDNs provided by Bluecoat, Riverbed, or Cisco, or being able to provide those appliances to mitigate network delivery themselves. Leaders also are able to support a variety of IP video publishing use cases, webcasting, recording, and streaming video conferences, as well as user-generated content. Having talked to these companies' customer references about their priorities, about their pain points, and having talked to the vendors about their roadmaps, I think there are going to be several areas for innovation and focus in 2013. Managing live and on-demand video over the network continues to be a major priority and a major pain for many organizations looking to deploy a video publishing service. And video platforms are focused on mitigating that network impact through supporting features like adaptive bit rates, but more importantly, being able to integrate with enterprise CDN and infrastructure appliances. Extending reach to mobile users is also a high priority, as customers want to be able to support their employees accessing video content from any place at any time on any device. Expanding user-generated content is also important, as more organizations look at going beyond just a one-to-many type of publishing scenario, but enabling many stakeholders to upload and publish content and share what they know with the rest of the organization. Video platforms are also focused on becoming a single repository for all video content, so that they would be able to manage content produced from webcasts, from video conference recordings, and even web conference recordings, allowing employees just one single destination to access all the content, all the video content they need for their jobs. And lastly, and very importantly, we're seeing a lot of innovation in search to deal with a tidal wave of video. Not just the ability to search for particular files, but even the ability to search within videos to find the specific piece of content and speech that someone said that is relevant to what you're looking for, rather than have to wade through an hour-long video. Besides the technology considerations and vendor capabilities we've been talking about, there's some other best practices when it comes to vendor selection. Talking to customer references, over and over again, I heard that it's critical to bring the right people to the table. You need to bring your IT security, your network professionals, in addition to your corporate communications and perhaps marketing if the platform will be used for customer-facing purposes. You need to choose a platform that can be customized to the idiosyncrasies of your environment too. Perhaps if you're looking for a formulaic or a turnkey solution, that's fine. But if you want to integrate the platform with SharePoint, if you want to match it to the idiosyncrasies of your network, then you need a vendor who can help drive that process. And speaking of a network who can drive that process, you want a vendor who will demand that you bring the right stakeholders to the table, who can tell you what you're missing in the implementation process, and who has experience deploying this solution in complex enterprise environments. That's it for me. I'll hand it back to you now, Stacy.
Thank you, Phil.